All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. We're going to explore a really fascinating puzzle. How do modern thinkers wrestle with ancient texts in a hyper-scientific world? Today, we're unpacking Dr. Robert Peterson's lecture on modern Christology. We're going to look at how three absolute giants of the 20th century tried to bridge the massive gap between ancient beliefs and modern realities.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the modern challenge. Then we're bringing in three totally distinct characters: Karl Barth, the anchor, Rudolf Bultmann, the radical, and Wolfhart Pannenberg, the detective. And finally, we'll evaluate their three different paths.
Section 1. The modern challenge. Science versus ancient texts. Let's set the stage. Why did these brilliant thinkers feel the need to innovate in the first place? Well, the core problem of the modern era is basically this. When modern humanity faces ancient texts talking about resurrections, miracles, and a divine incarnation, we kind of hit a brick wall, right? The scientific worldview makes just accepting these supernatural events really, really difficult. So the ultimate challenge for modern theology became a multiple-choice question. Do we keep the ancient dogmas exactly as they are? Do we just strip away the supernatural stuff completely? Or do we try to build some sort of bridge using historical evidence?
Moving right along to Section 2, Karl Barth, the Orthodox anchor.
So when Karl Barth looked at modern skepticism and the liberal theology of his day, he basically shouted a massive, emphatic no. Dr. Peterson explains that Barth anchored his theology top-down, rooting it deeply in classical orthodoxy. After serving as a pastor, he found that the liberal theology of the 19th century just didn't work in practice. So he went all the way back to the classical statements of the first 5 centuries. He made Christ the absolute, undeniable center of his theology. And against the whole trend of modern skepticism, Barth boldly defended literal miracles. He actually called the virgin birth and the empty tomb the immovable signposts set by God at the very beginning and end of Jesus' life. And he insisted we literally dare not move those signposts.
But you might be wondering, did this intense, laser-like focus on Jesus bring any backlash? Well, it absolutely did. He got some really heavy critiques from his peers, asking a fairly provocative question: is it actually possible to focus too much on Christ in theology?
Barth's critics hit back hard on this. Scholars like Emil Brunner accused Barth of something called Christophomonism, basically emphasizing Christ to such an extreme extent that it compromises everything else. Because Barth insisted that literally all revelation is exclusively found in Christ, he completely rejected any natural revelation outside of Jesus. He even denied that God reveals himself in creation, which, by the way, sparked a famously bitter debate between him and Brunner. So while Barth definitely anchored his theology, his critics felt he did it at the expense of the rest of the theological landscape. All right, Section 3, Rudolf Bultmann, the radical. Now the pendulum swings completely in the opposite direction. If Barth was trying to pull heaven down to earth, Bultmann essentially translated theology entirely into anthropology. He was deeply, deeply influenced by the existentialist philosophy of Martin Heidegger, so Bultmann turned the focus totally inward. For him, the texts weren't about objective historical facts that happened in the ancient world. No, they were about what he called a believing self-understanding. In Bultmann's view, every assertion about Christ is actually an assertion about man. Whenever we speak about Jesus Christ, we are actually just talking about our own concrete, existential human situation.
So what did Bultmann do with biblical miracles? To achieve this intensely internal focus, he had to deal with the ancient three-storied structure of the universe. The whole idea of heaven above, earth in the middle, and hell below, complete with angels and demons constantly intervening in human affairs. How on earth does a modern mind process that? Well, his solution was a famous method called demythologization. It's a big word, but he essentially just peeled the text like an onion to completely strip away the supernatural, mythological framework. Bultmann argued that modern people simply cannot and will not accept a literal incarnation, literal miracles, or a physical resurrection. So he stripped all of that out. To him, Jesus was just an ordinary man. But through the cross, early believers found a way to be delivered from the power of sin internally. The historical miracles, to Bultmann, they were just myths wrapping up an existential truth for modern people.
It's absolutely crucial to note how Dr. Peterson views this specific outcome. He evaluates Bultmann's radical approach as a massive departure from Christian orthodoxy. In fact, he calls it a sad state of affairs. He points out that by stripping away everything supernatural, Bultmann basically lost the historical, literal Jesus entirely, reducing the entire Christian message down to mere philosophy.
Okay, let's move on to Section 4, Wolfhart Pannenberg, the detective. This brings us right to our third character, Wolfhart Pannenberg. And Pannenberg takes a fascinating middle road. He acts very much like a historical detective. He recognized that modern people really struggle with Barth's top-down, just believe it approach, but he also completely rejected Bultmann's extreme skepticism. So to reach modern audiences, Pannenberg championed what he called a Christology from below. But what exactly does that mean structurally?
Well, it's like a giant architectural difference. Think about Barth's Christology from above. It basically drops the theological roof directly from the sky. It starts with the absolute assumption of divine revelation in the incarnation. But Pannenberg's Christology from below, he builds the house from the historical foundation on up. He starts with the historical man, Jesus. Pannenberg argues that if you start from above, you're going to miss the distinctive human features of the real historical man, Jesus of Nazareth.
So Pannenberg uses the historical method to trace Jesus' earthly life. He starts right in the first century context with Jesus' historical apocalyptic mission. Then he moves to Good Friday and the cross, which, as Pannenberg points out, seemed like a complete, utter failure at the time, just a standard rebel's execution. But then, and here's where he breaks completely from Bultmann, Pannenberg anchors his entire theology on the literal, historical reality of Easter Sunday. For Pannenberg, the resurrection is the great miracle. It is the ultimate divine vindication of Jesus' earthly claims.
By working backward from that historical proof of the resurrection, Pannenberg essentially arrives back at the classical doctrines. He affirms the Trinity and the Incarnation retrospectively, and he introduces this incredibly fascinating concept called eschatological inhypostasis. I know, it's a huge, complex term, but essentially, it means that in Jesus, the essence of God and the essence of man are perfectly integrated. And Pannenberg believed that this reality, this integration, would eventually extend to all of human reality at the end of history.
Which leads us to Section 5, Evaluating the Three Paths.
Let's put all this together into a sort of theological report card that perfectly summarizes Dr. Peterson's lecture. We've got some stark contrasts here. First, Karl Barth. He's anchored top-down in classical orthodoxy. His miracles are immovable signposts, but his primary critique is Christomonism. Then you have Rudolf Bultmann. He completely stripped the text down to internal, existential myth to appeal to modern minds, but the critique is that he totally lost the historical Jesus. And finally, Wolfhart Pannenberg. He reasoned his way bottom-up from historical evidence, validating everything through the resurrection. However, Dr. Peterson critiques him because Pannenberg actually uses that critical method to reject some parts of the biblical witness, like the virgin birth. Now, here's a really interesting twist. Dr. Peterson notes a surprising commonality here. Does modern theology inevitably lean toward universalism? Despite their wildly different methods, Barth dropping in from heaven and Pannenberg starting from the literal dirt of history, both men face critiques that their systems ultimately lean toward universal salvation. For Barth, his view of election implies that Jesus took the reprobation for literally everyone. And for Pannenberg, his idea of humanity and divinity perfectly integrating implies an eventual universal reality. It's a really fascinating byproduct of their intense focus on reconciling God and humanity. As we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a massive, provocative thought. Can ancient faith and modern science ever be perfectly reconciled? We've just watched three brilliant minds try to solve the exact same puzzle of maintaining faith in a hyper-scientific world. One stubbornly held the line, one stripped the supernatural out completely, and one tried to investigate the whole thing like a historical detective. So, will this tension ever be fully resolved? Or is wrestling with these exact questions and finding our own path up the mountain where true understanding actually begins? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning and keep learning.